Monday couldn't come any sooner. After taking the floor plans from Miss Santos the day before last, I spent most of my Sunday drawing up plans and calling in my suppliers. Although no design choices have been made yet, I'm quite sure they'd want high-end appliances, the most expensive materials, and the most pretentious everything. They usually did, these rich types, based from experience at least. Given how badly this whole thing started, it couldn't hurt to be prepared. I have to check myself, make sure I'm not playing with my gloves as one of the other building tenants takes the elevator up with me. It makes me self-conscious when the woman's eyes go over me, and I'm sure she was going to point out some perceived flaw in my physical appearance. But I'm saved from being paranoid when they went off a few floors later. Still, the ride up to my floor is nerve-wracking. Neck-wracking. Is nerve-wracking.
Interesting.
The Wrights lived at the very top of the penthouse, the creme de la creme, when it comes to condominium and urban living. Just getting access to the place is an ordeal of its own. I had to jump so many hoops, so many security checks just to secure a key card, not only because of building management, but because of the Wrights' personal security. It's sometimes felt like I'm being interrogated for a crime and not visiting a client at their home. Even when their personal assistant called in to help out and verify my presence, the process is aggravated rather than hastened. Speaking of the devil...
I get a weird vibe from this guy.
Like, serial killer vibes?
Yeah, like he's like... that, but he's like a hitman also, I don't know. He's just weird.
Yeah, it seemed to... No, I suppose his actions in some way make sense of like, oh, there's someone in my house, let me incapacitate them and then hand them over to the police. It's just something about the way he did about it. I think I'm mixing like my memories of like what I thought was going to happen at that time of like him dragging us into the cellar or something, but he didn't actually do that. I don't know. What do you think's weird about him?
I'm not sure if it's just because we're playing the part of, like, Zach before, and so he was, like, always looked down upon from, like, that whole household, basically, besides Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we were playing from Johannes's part, I feel like we would feel like the good guy, you know? I think it's just how it's portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not quite sure.
Mm-hmm. The elevator door opens, and I'm greeted by none other than Whiskey's not-so-little lackey.
I do apologize if I kept Mr. and Mrs. Wright waiting. But I'm here now, and I'm ready, so if I may, where are they?
They've just woken up, but they should be down soon. I'm surprised to see you made it through security, and only 5 minutes late.
You said I'd be through security soon, and it took half an hour. Define soon in this context.
I'd make myself comfortable if I were you. I'm going to go and put the kettle on.
About the tea, I don't want to intrude or anything.
The sir does not like being woken up by the whistling. But who am I to deny tea to a guest?
He shows me to the couch before drifting off towards the kitchen, quietly pulling out a teapot, cups, and all sorts of other things in preparation for tea. I ignore the animosity towards his employer that his words implied. I wouldn't be too surprised if Whiskey's own people don't like him. Accepting the quiet and isolation instead, I brace myself for what's to come. In this case, soon apparently means more than 5 minutes, or even 10. I sit in their living room, just waiting. And when the kettle starts whistling, the tea has been served, I continue to wait. At least the silence is relaxing. But then there's a crash. I nearly spill tea all over my lap in surprise as I look up expecting security to come running. Even the man at the kitchen counter continues to fix breakfast like he heard nothing. I don't even want to speak up about it because he looks far too absorbed in his cooking, and I don't want to see the cause of burnt food, or want to be the cause of burnt food or worse. However, there's something in me that just wants to figure out what that was, although I'm normally not this nosy. I'd say continue waiting. What should I do then? Poke your nose about in a rich security person filled penthouse? I mean, it's not going to affect her job. She's going to be doing the thing anyway, but...
Right. I would check it out.
Why?
Because that's what you do in these type of games and movies and books. You're nosy.
Okay. Yeah, more interesting. More interesting choice. Check it out. The crash came from the hallway, and I really shouldn't be snooping about.
I feel like if she is wandering around, she just played off like, oh, I was trying to get a sense of your taste and your sense of style.
Mm-hmm.
But I doubt that's what she would say.
Mm-hmm. But it's just concern. Yeah, concern that urges me to check it out. Sneaking a glance at the butler, I consider sneaking off, but...
Excuse me, but where's the loo?
He barely looks my way before pointing a spatula towards the hallway. It's a good excuse as any. And if I'm caught lingering longer than I should, I could just excuse myself and say that I wasn't sure which door led to where.
What is it? Radio?
Still, looking into the hallway reveals nothing. I don't see anything that might have caused the crash. The hallway, like the rest of the place, is in pristine condition. There are several doors for not only the toilet, but also presumably rooms for their butler and other members of the staff. As I stand there, however, something feels definitely out of place. One of the doors, the nearest within my reach, stands ajar, and from the inside a light flickers incessantly. It could simply be a light bulb that needs replacing. The thought of it in a place so well taken care of seems odd. Off. I think that maybe this is where the crash came from. Inside, I spy a radio lying on the floor. That's probably it, right? Maybe one of the help, in a hurry to get out of the room, knocked it over in the process. If that's all it is, I should really leave it alone. And as I turn to leave, the sound of static fills the air and a man's tiny voice interrupts the silence.
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th year dead.
Why am I still standing here?
Assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
This seems familiar, doesn't it?
Authorities are investigating the possibility of foul play.
Like I've heard it before.
Reporting from St. Samthins, Shane McLaughlin of Galway Bay, AM.
Oh, Jesus. I recoil back away from whatever that was. In the process, I trip backwards on my feet and I wait for the pain of falling flat on my back. But instead, I feel a hand on my back and see the smug smile of, well, guess who?
Oh, don't tell me you're reporting to work drunk, Mint.
Of course, I know exactly who that voice belongs to. It just have to be him.
Marianne McCullough, hammered on the job? That would be something.
But as if I had been burned, I push him away from me with a deep scowl on my face. Even his slightest touch makes me sick.
Well.
And that smug smile on his face makes me want to come in contact... What? That smug smile on his face makes me want to come in contact with him, if only to break his nose with my fist. Okay. What?
Is that any way to say hello to a good friend?
We aren't friends. Let's get that straight first off, Mr. Wright. Secondly, you're a married man, so that thing that happened shouldn't have happened.
Oh, come on, don't tell me it wasn't even a little fun. A bit of a romp never hurt anybody.
No, it wasn't fun, and we shouldn't have done it. But since we did, let's pretend it didn't happen and never speak of it again.
I was drunk and had no self-control. Don't I get a free pass?
top one.
I have work to do, sir. Yeah, okay. I want nothing more than to punch the fucker and show him what for, but I have to remind myself to stay calm. No matter what I feel for this man, no matter how much I want to cuss him out and spew every profanity in the book and then some, he is still my client. I don't imagine that knocking the block off one of the more influential persons of high society would go well with the rest of my usual clientele.
It doesn't matter. I have work to do. I'm here to do my job, and if Whiskey has any ounce of sense in him, he'll know not to bring up this matter.
You must have some sense, right?
Or else what? I can't take that statement seriously without one of those.
Apparently not.
Whiskey will know not to bring the matter up, or else he'll get what's coming to him.
No, still not convinced. You tried, I suppose. Plus points for that.
The dead air between us, because it can be anything else but that, is broken as his lively voice calls out from the loft.
Marianne! I hope I haven't kept you waiting too long. I know we agreed we'd start at 10 o'clock, but mornings just simply do not agree with me. Not one bit. It's been like this since I've been in university.
It's 5 minutes to 11 o'clock. These high-end clients sure like to be fashionably late. I'm used to it though, much like how I'm used to so many years of hearing people mispronounce my name. Besides, berating or correcting my client would be extremely impolite, and Marianne doesn't sound too bad when she says it. To be fair, it doesn't seem like she's late on purpose.
I see you're up, darling. You know, you could have woken me up as well. Were you showing Marianne around? Not that there's much to see. This place is so tiny compared to the mansion.
I'm more worried about the way she stares at me, judging. Such a look. It doesn't suit her pretty face at all. Just seeing Mrs. Wright remind me too much of her. Maybe I'm starting to hear her again and see her again when I shouldn't. I should have left it all behind, forgotten it. I think she would be looking at me that way. I can just feel my hands tremble.
Oh yes, just showing her around and getting to know each other. Isn't that right, Marianne?
Yes, of course. And your butler was making breakfast a while ago. So if you want to get right to that...
Breakfast would be lovely.
There's no denying the clients when they invite me over to the table. Though it's too personal to share a meal in their home, it would be horribly rude to deny their invitation. Besides, the pancakes did look and smell heavenly.
The 6? A stack of 6. Holy cow.
A bowl of clotted cream, fruits, syrups, jams, and other spreads are laid out next to them, making for a colorful arrangement. If this was a brunch with friends, I would have gladly helped myself to the whole lot. But as it is, I accepted just a few pieces of pancakes and topped it off with lemon and sugar.
You know, I was a tiny bit serious when I said I wanted a helipad.
And you're not serious about the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables?
Well, I do want those too, but I know you'll agree to those.
We're talking about interiors here, honey. You don't handle exterior designs and whatever handles those sorts of projects do you, Marianne?
I'm able, actually, and willing to take a project of that nature. I was an architect in Ireland before. Of course, that's another contract entirely. I also suggest we finish the house itself before working on any additions to the rest of the property. There won't be any problems about ownership this time, will there? Pardon if I'm crossing a line, but the acquisition was rather quick.
Oh, don't you worry. We've got everything sorted this time around. I've talked to Miss Cooper and Mr. John from BRC, as well as the old owners. Everything has been paid in full, and all we're waiting for is the paperwork from the land registry. They're letting us move in as soon as we please. It's not like they were living there in the first place.
That's good to hear. The problems that could arise from renovating another person's home would be... well, let's not dwell on it. First off, we'll want to know how you want the place to look. It's pretty furnished as is, but I understand if you want to modernize the whole thing.
Actually, I'd prefer to keep the place looking as it is, but at the same time, I want modern appliances. You worked on the Ludgate's Christchurch summer residence. I do remember there being an oven I thought was a simple drawer before. Make them look vintage, antique, blend in with the rest of the decor.
Customize appliances then. I can't find someone for that, and if you can't tell me what you specifically want, it'll hasten up the process. We're talking about electronic appliance manufacturers. If you have a preferred brand to work with.
Splendid! So, what is next on our agenda? All the other interior designers we've hired in the past did not have us this involved.
Oh, I stop. What sort of half-baked designer did that? If I knew who they were, I would have words. This isn't the time or place for it, however. Instead, I use this brief pause to pull out the floor plans I brought with me.
We'll have to figure out what you want to do with the rooms. Here, we can have a quick run-through.
What is that little room next to the master's bedroom?
A balcony, or?
Oh, as far as I could tell when I saw it, it's a second bedroom of sorts. Used, apparently, for the ladies-in-waiting who has served Lady Charlotte Ermengarde, which is strange, as that isn't the norm for these sorts of houses.
Well, we're not stuffing Johans in there. He won't fit. You don't suppose we could turn it into a walk-in closet and a dressing room?
Big room.
I love fashion, but do we really need to turn an entire room into a walk-in closet, dear? We'll have large closets and a wardrobe in the bedroom already.
Says the one who takes 3/5 of our closet. Well, what do you suggest we do with it?
I thought a utility room of some sort would be nice. A craft room where I can do fun things. Or maybe a children's room might be nice. You know, for when Kylie comes over. Or if Rochelle visits once she's had a baby.
1, you are not inviting that witch. And 2, there's a whole mansion for Kylie to play in. We don't need a children's room, and you don't even do arts and crafts. I'd like to turn the guest's room and the study into my personal office, by the way, if you don't mind.
You can turn it into a personal office if I can have my utility room. It's just the one room of the many. I'm taking that room for myself, no matter what you say, dearie. So you might as well take this deal. You're always out doing business anyway. The real problem is the theater. Whatever are we going to do with all that space?
Fine, we could turn it into our own personal cinema, I suppose. Might as well have it, if you plan on not having a telly in the parlor.
Yes, well, I don't want guests to be glued to the telly when they come over for a meal and some tea. By the looks of things, we can keep the rooms as what they are on the ground floor, though. The ballroom would be perfect for parties.
Do we really need a dining hall, though? I don't suppose we can't convert it into a garage.
What for? You can park your cars outside.
What about that room? Right there, in the northeast corner.
That's sleeping quarters for the household help?
Oh, that is perfect! Johans will be glad if we have other staff members who stayed in. It'd be convenient so they don't have to make the trip from Luxbourne to the mansion when they're needed.
You'll definitely need a lot more people to maintain a property of this size.
The mansion is really a lot bigger than I thought. Look at all these rooms. I didn't even know there was a music room next to the parlor because of what happened.
There was a grand piano in there too, when we checked during the tour.
Did you hear that, Luke? Maybe you can take up playing the piano again. Oh, you should have seen him when we were younger, Marianne.
It's not like I was very good with the thing.
Oh, hush you. You were no Mozart, but I loved hearing you play nonetheless. He'd come over to my home and he'd play such fun tunes. He'd sing too and I'd dance and it was just...
Mr. Wright playing the piano? I can't imagine it. But the earnest way in which Miss Wright said so told otherwise.
Anyway, what do you think of these plans, Marianne?
Are we not even going to consider one of my requests? Not even just a closet or just a garage? Now, that isn't fair, is it? You're not the only one who's going to be living here.
I hardly see how that's unfair. I told you you're getting your office and your theater, the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables. That That sounds fair, does it not, Marianne?
Uh-oh. Ah.
I think it sounds fair, but
I mean, it does, but...
and we don't like him anyway.
There's still the professional part of, like, this isn't my place to, like, make... It's my job to execute on what you want to do. No, I agree. It does sound fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Mrs. Wright has her points, though I really don't want to butt into the spat of a husband and wife. Exactly. But with the way the two are looking at me to settle this, I might as well just keep to the facts instead of giving opinion.
Mr. Wright, your plan isn't quite feasible from an architectural perspective. I'm not even sure how much we can do without closer inspection. Well, the one about the garage, at least. A walk-in closet is easy enough, but the garage?
See, a garage isn't architecturally feasible, and it isn't going to be financially sound as well. We're already going to spend a lot on your other requests. You have several acres of land to park on already.
What? Did you calculate that on the fly? Financially sound, my foot. You're probably just thinking up of imaginary numbers.
Might I remind you that I was a financial manager? I also looked over and approved the expenses of our other houses. I know the rough costs of these things by now, love. Masters in Business Administration, major in accounting. Sometimes I think you forget that I'm not as dumb as I act.
That catches my attention more than anything. It sounds more unbelievable than Whiskey playing the piano. She really didn't seem like the type.
Business administration and accounting? What university?
Lux upon you, of course. Go Lux Dragons, red and gold.
Excuse me, how about we move on this chit-chat ahead and do whatever else needs to be done sometime today? I had to cancel my appointments for this, you know. We might as well do a proper inspection with the designer this time, just to get it out of the way.
Yes, no time like the present. You want a thorough inspection? Might as well do it now. We actually took another look at the property yesterday, though it was brief. But I'm sure you would want to see it yourself, to spot anything we might have missed.
It's not like I have much of a choice, do I?